when does it change? Is it when the first leaf falls or the last? This is something like self-care. Anxiety is selfish. I'm thinking about this and won't stop until it feels complete. This isn't a story that ends, a morbid cycle. I'm on my bed, unfinished, thinking of what eats me. Clearly I'm the issue. Misguidedly, I think I'm the problem. The interaction of saying hi to you this morning went wrong and it's nothing to prove why. This is something like self-care. I'm forgotten somewhere, hopefully no longer stagnant. Growth without anyone to see it, almost thought, what's the point? This is something like self-care. Derived, there's no guarantees in life. No guarantees to things having meaning at all. I question whether or not the lack of guarantees was a make or break for me. This is something like self-care. Staring out the window, at one point I thought of windows as a picture of freedom, but now it's starting to feel more like an immovable object, some empty hole towards the outside. This is something like self-care. There was a moment I must have realized that this was just part of my existence, the act of waking up every day and convincing myself that I have the energy to keep going. This is something like self-care. I didn't think I would end up here again. Why do I always end up here? Comatose inside myself, convinced happiness is some sick illusion. Convinced there's one truth, intrinsic value is false. See, life is some shallow game, and if you believe in it and play into it faithfully, wholeheartedly, you will believe that you have won. This is something like self-care. I haven't felt alive in a while. I woke up to my work alarm and everyone was gone. In an anxious way, I woke up to an empty world and I was sure I would never get anyone back. I was sure I didn't deserve anyone back. Drool dried on my shirt collar, I have to get up. Life is a game of get back up and you have to play into it. This is something like self-care. Get back up. Say it easily. Get back up. Say it like you thought of it. Get back up. Say it like no one else has ever said something like this before. You're the first, the birth, the only time it will ever sound this way. You lay yourself down at night. Get back up. This is something like self-care. Anxiety knew that somewhere I had the spirit of my mother. She was both the violence and the victim. Somewhere, covered in familial blood bonds, I don't think I have ever known what it is like to be well. So let's say it. I know I am the violence, the knife, and the victim, the flesh. This is something like self-care. Apologizing is a second chance. I'm sorry. I haven't heard my mother's voice since Saturday afternoon. I'm sorry. What day is it? What day do you think it is? I'm sorry. It's been a long day. It's Saturday still. Left a state in a daze I remember too much. I'm sorry. You woke up in a daze saying, this is something like self-care. At first shaky and desperate. At first it is the willful act of being self-conscious. This is self-reflection. This is uncomfortable. I hate this. I spill my guts and call it self-care, trying to not lie to me, to myself, to my art. This is self-care. At first difficult and horrible. Then it becomes second nature, the very definition of changing who you are. I became second nature entirely. This is the act of being alive, forced upon certain standards. I have to act a certain way until it feels less like acting and more like second nature. Superficially, there is violence in the way I interact with myself, the very definition of tough love. This is self-care. I have the right to be seen. I have the right to be ugly and to be looked at and to be loved and to be respected. This is self-care in 3 steps. 1. Validation. It's okay that I hurt and want to feel better. 2. Reassurance. I can handle this pain even though it hurts. 3. Perspective talking. I've had bad days like this before and I've made it through them. I can remember my better days and know I'm not always hurting this much.